Joining us from our Westminster studio with more reaction, Raoul Ruparel, co-director of the Open Europe think tank. How workable do you think these proposals actually are in reality?
Well, I think we have to realise firstly these are just proposals put forward by the UK, the Commission and the Council, and they have to be run past all other 27 member states, so they could still change. I think for Cameron it's good that he's got something on all the 4 areas, as he was saying there, and he can sell that as a win or as a good deal for him. But obviously if it's chipped away at in the coming negotiations and ahead of the February summit, it may be a harder sell. So there's still lots of unanswered questions around this proposed deal.
Is it a win, though? When you look at what has been proposed, child benefit, this is something that a lot of people are exercised about, that is exported to other countries within the EU. That's not being scrapped. It's going to simply be reduced depending on the index linked to the poverty levels in that country. And the emergency brake, that again, it's going to be graduated, isn't it? Who's going to decide this? There seems to be a great deal of holes in it.
Well, there's lots of unanswered questions. I mean, ultimately, it is quite a short text, and these are very complex issues, and I think they will have to be followed up with detailed legislation and detailed legal text. But I think there are questions around the emergency brake. It's left open how long exactly it will apply for, whether it can be triggered again in the future, who exactly triggers it, and whether it will be triggered immediately after the referendum. So there are lots of questions here which will hopefully be answered in the coming days and weeks. But I think ahead of the referendum, there needs to be a very clear settlement on who has control of many of these issues and where exactly the decisions will be taken, because I think if it is taken in Brussels, if it is the Commission in control, then that will be a very hard sell to the British public.
What do you think the reaction will be of the other member states in Brussels ahead of this meeting in 2 weeks' time?
Well, we know that the Eastern European states, and particularly Poland, continue to be very excised about the 4-year migrants ban, even in a ban on migrants' access to benefits, even in this emergency brake form. So they could well raise concerns over that. We've heard concerns from France and even Germany about how this protection for non-Eurozone countries will work and whether it will hurt the integration of the Eurozone in the future. And I think there will be questions on some of the other issues about ever closer union, what that means for the EU going forward in the future, whether it just applies to the UK, whether other countries will take it up. So there's a lot of discussion to be had. I think the Council would probably not have proposed a text which it thinks will be dismissed out of hand, but I don't think this text being on the table guarantees its acceptance from all the other member states.
Do you think it safeguards David Cameron going to the country for a referendum? From what you've heard of what has come out of today, what do you think a verdict of that referendum could be?
Well, I think if you look at most of the polling, it shows that David Cameron's recommendation and the outcome of the renegotiations will have some impact on the vote, and it does have the potential to swing undecided voters and soft voters on either side, maybe a 20–25% swing either way. So I think it could have some impact. Again, it depends exactly what the final deal looks like, but I think if Cameron comes out strongly and the deal is seen to be largely credible, then that certainly will be a boost to the Remain side. And I think at the moment, given that, it may be the Remain side is marginally ahead, but it is very close, and the polls are all showing that it can change, and we have to factor in outside events here. Another blow up in the migration crisis, a Eurozone crisis, a spat between the UK and the EU. Any number of these issues could derail the way the referendum is going, so there's a lot still to play for.
Okay, well, thanks very much there, Raoul Ruparel, co-director of Open Europe. We were